MSNBC calls for the Let's Go Brandon prankster to be investigated by the FBI.
Mr. Reagan.
So I'm sure you've all heard of the Let's Go Brandon prankster by now, but if you haven't, here it is.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Well, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
Now, this hilarious video has been criticized by leftists for not being in the Christmas spirit, a bit of a cruel trick to play on a senile old man at Christmas time. And honestly, I agree. Totally inappropriate, totally unchristian-like, and a bit ugly. But I have to admit, I laughed my head off when I first saw this, and I played it for my father when I was visiting for Christmas, and he too laughed his head off. So, as inappropriate as it was also hilarious. And that's what a good prank is supposed to be. So, though on the one hand, I agree with the criticism, and I condemn cruel pranks like this one, I also commend the comedic brilliance of it. This guy took a prank that is, at its core, juvenile, and he elevated it to a prank of stratospheric brilliance. This is the creme de la creme of crank calls. But here's the thing. The left is not laughing. Not only are they not laughing, not only are they condemning this as not in the Christmas spirit, but they have now called for this merry prankster to be investigated by the FBI. I mean, this sounds like a Babylon Bee article, but this is 100% real. I'll get into all of it in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. Had you bought $18,000 worth of Ethereum 6 months ago, you'd be sitting on $38,000 today. Yes, crypto is the fastest way to build wealth, and that's why Colin Plume, the CEO of Noble Gold, created MyDigitalMoney.com. MyDigitalMoney.com is the cryptocurrency platform that offers the best US-based phone support service. Forget the automated machine. MyDigitalMoney.com will answer your call. If you don't understand how a crypto IRA works, call the folks at MyDigitalMoney.com. If you need help on how to sell your crypto, call the folks at MyDigitalMoney.com. If you're worried about a controversy over one of your crypto investments, call the folks at MyDigitalMoney.com. And here's a special treat. If you're unsure whether crypto investing is even for you, just open up a Play Money account with MyDigitalMoney.com. Try trading without the risk. In fact, I'm actually going to do that as soon as I stop making this ad. So go to MyDigitalMoney.com right now and start building your wealth. So this guy plays a little prank on Joe Biden. Funny, a bit mean-spirited, but it's a prank. That's what a prank is. Funny and a bit mean-spirited. That's the whole point of a prank. So the left, of course, lose their mind. First, leftists doxed this guy and called for him to be fired from his job. Now they want him investigated by the FBI. Here's the MSNBC panel calling for the investigation.
This is the slow motion insurrection, Jason, in full color.
All of these people are basically just insurrectionists in training now. When these people are speaking, they're not joking. Let's Go Brandon isn't about what you feel about supply chain issues and gas. It is the cry of insurrectionists. It is the cry of people who want to violently take over this country and oppress anyone who is not like them. But I hope that we have a Justice Department and an FBI and a CIA that investigates where the anger that leads to these kinds of statements comes through, because these people have already attacked us with guns. You think they're going to come back and do something less aggressive next time if they feel they can speak this way to the president? I don't think so.
This call for an investigation, as insane as it sounds, is actually just part of a pattern emerging from the left where many have been proposing that the expression "Let's Go Brandon" should be criminalized.
Some liberals have decided that the comparatively mild "Let's Go Brandon" chant is an essentially violent utterance. Asha Rangappa, a commentator for CNN, said it was akin to making a pro-ISIS statement. Another CNN analyst, Juliette Kayyem, also a Harvard professor, said the passengers on that flight should file complaints with the FAA. Progressive political strategist and commentator Chris Hahn accused the pilot of sympathizing with terrorists. And CNN's Joe Lockhart attacked Southwest for not immediately firing the pilot. Ken Delanian of NBC News said he called to ask the Secret Service whether "Let's Go Brandon," emblazoned on an assault rifle, represented a security threat to the president, which, quote, "I think is a reasonable question."
Now, I should make clear that the left is interpreting "Let's Go Brandon" as code for F Joe Biden, which it is, but they're decoding every instance of "Let's Go Brandon" as a literal expression of the words F Joe Biden.
And when he said to President Joe Biden means F Joe Biden. F you.
F you to the sitting president.
F you.
F Joe Biden.
F Joe Biden.
A profane kind of offhanded statement.
F you, Mr. President.
And the truth is, I think the phrase has evolved beyond that. To most conservatives, I think the phrase has just become a fun way of expressing displeasure with the president. We don't like Joe Biden, so let's go Brandon. That's what we say now in order to express our dislike of Joe Biden. Nothing more, nothing less. And yet they keep saying that it's a sign of insurrection.
This is the slow motion insurrection.
The whole let's go Brandon kind of motif, I think it is fundamentally about insurrection.
It is the cry of insurrectionists.
This kind of interpretation is not just a stretch, it's deranged. But what's really bizarre about this is that they used to say this about Trump all the time.
Listen to it. When I say you say Trump.
She is selling the bumper stickers that you see behind her.
Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump.
In fact, they still say this about Trump, and they don't decode it in any way. The expression F Trump used to be ubiquitous. And if you don't know what the word ubiquitous means, look it up. Good word. Makes you look all smart and shit. So when the left says F Trump, it's fine. They get applause even.
Trump.
But when we say let's go Brandon, it's some kind of act of insurrection. And you know, I think this is another indication of something that we've all known for a very long time, which is that the left has no sense of humor. The left used to have a sense of humor. All the best comedians in the 90s were leftists. But now those same comedians have stopped being funny. Their comedy has mutated into twisted expressions of political activism followed by a laugh track.
5 years of coddling this president's fascist rhetoric. Guess whose followers want to burn down the Reichstag? Because today, the U.S. Capitol was overrun for the first time since 1814, and a woman died.
So we can be shocked, but we can't be surprised. The president wanted this. He directed it, supported it, he incited it, and encouraged it.
The President of the United States, because he is too angry, too insecure, and too incompetent to deal with the fact that he lost an election, a fair election, an election that was no different than any other election, an election he lost by 7 million votes and 70 electors, turns an angry mob against members of Congress.
Today was a disgrace. Today was disappointing. But sadly, today was not a surprise.
Thinking about all of this has led me to a revelation about how conservatives perceive the left. If, instead of demanding that the Let's Go Brandon prankster be docked, lose his job, be investigated by the FBI, if instead the left had just laughed at the prank, we'd respect them. We would actually respect them, because it would so contradict our expectations of them that we'd actually be impressed. Wow, you mean the left didn't take the joke seriously and then try to retaliate in a fashion that was way out of proportion? They just laughed? That is awesome. Respect. But they didn't do that, and they did retaliate in a fashion that was way out of proportion, as any of us might have predicted. Side note, I would like to point out that this guy is from Oregon, which makes me very proud being an Oregonian myself. Thank you, Guy, for representing my state with such comedic integrity. Now, this indicates that Biden has no idea what's going on.
It strikes me that it seems like the president wasn't aware that people have been saying this for months now about him.
If I were president and no one in my staff told me that there was a popular joke phrase going around about me and I found out about it because somebody tricked me into saying it, I'd have them all executed. That's it. You guys are done. You're going to die right now. But really, I mean, this indicates that Biden doesn't even watch the news. I mean, how insulated can he be to never have heard the phrase, let's go Brandon? But okay, so Biden's completely out of the loop. He's mentally incompetent, etc. Fine. That's obvious. Nothing too shocking there. But I do think that that's why the left is so mad about this. I think that this guy kind of accidentally outed Joe Biden as being mentally incompetent. And as obvious as that is, the left has genuinely been trying to pretend that this is not true since the campaign. Now, it's a fool's errand, but they really are trying. And so for a guy to make Biden's mental state so clear, just through a little prank, well, I think that that's why they're so mad. So, of course, they've retaliated in this absurdly disproportionate way. This guy has to be doxxed, he has to lose his job, and then he has to get investigated by the FBI. I mean, it's like an absurdist comedy. It really is like a Babylon Bee headline come to life. Okay, leftists. I'm going to speak to you directly now. Here is how you avoid getting pranked like this in the future. Don't install Joe Biden as president. I'm not saying that Kamala Harris would have been a better fake president, or Buttigieg or Warren or any of the other Democrat candidates, but at least they would have had some mental faculty. But that's the trade-off, isn't it? The establishment folks in DC, the deep state operators, they wanted a puppet. They wanted somebody who was corrupt enough to be totally compliant and mentally deficient enough not to be able to defy them. If I were president and I got this kind of phone call, right? Some leftist prankster did this to me, I certainly would not call for an investigation. I would laugh. That would be my reaction. Assuming I understood the joke, I would probably say something like, all right, that's very funny. We've got a joker here. Let's move on to the next question. I would take it in the spirit in which it was delivered, right? I mean, the guy's trying to make a joke. He's trying to be funny. I would take it that way. And the guy calling, he'd be a hero to the left for a week or so, and then we'd move on to more important issues, and it would be done. In fact, this did actually happen to me the other day on Twitter. A woman said that I shouldn't compare vaccine segregation to racial segregation, in the early 60s. She suggested that what I had done, this kind of comparison, is blasphemous, as if the pain of racial segregation was somehow sacred. So I wrote, I don't worship the God of wokeness. And so she then wrote back, yeah, you worship Satan, JK. Well, the letters JK indicate that she was indeed joking, and I took it as a joke. And I wrote back, that's actually pretty funny. And honestly, I was astonished that a leftist could even crack a joke like that. I was impressed. And this also happened to GB News a while back. This is a conservative news organization in Britain. And they kind of responded in the same way that I would. They were a little less jovial than I would have been, but their response, I think, was fairly reasonable.
Mike Oxlong has emailed me saying that he agrees with me. Mike Hunt has got in touch about toys.
I'm just going to say something because if you've seen the papers, if you've seen Twitter, some people think it's really funny to send in texts and messages that, on the basis that if we read them out, we've been had. You're still doing it, and I'm watching them, and it doesn't help anybody.
We're just not going to read surnames from now on.
Well, yeah. So the person who's just messaged, grow up. We're a new company, we're a new broadcaster. There are systems that we're putting in place that would stop idiots like you getting through. They're getting through at the moment, but please, we've got other things to worry about.
I mean, they were a little bit annoyed, okay. But they weren't crazy. They didn't call for these people to be doxxed. They didn't call for these people to lose their jobs. They didn't call for these people to be investigated by MI6 or whomever. And get this is actually pretty funny. An almost identical prank as the GB News one was pulled against CNN in the New Year's broadcasts. One of the prank names was even the same, Mike Oxlong. And so I think maybe this was even the same prankster.
These are all fake tweets. Bend over. Now look at the next one. CNN's throwing out fake Twitter names. Mike Oxlong. This is CNN. You think that they'd have someone screening this shit. Who's this one? I need a black man. What the
So this guy was using names like Mike Oxlong, Ben Dover, Bo Nair, and there's a new one that I'd never heard of before, which I thought was particularly amusing, called Anita Blackman. I mean, this was, I think, pretty hilarious. But Don Lemon's response was a little, pardon the pun, sour.
Are you people insane? Go ahead. Troll the Democrats on Twitter. Do this stupid, silly, you know what? Play this stupid, juvenile meme game.
Are you people insane? Only insane people play pranks. Ashton Kutcher, when he made the show Punk'd, completely insane the whole time, out of his mind. Salty Cracker did a video about this, and he postulated that the reason this prank was successful is that no one ats CNN anymore on Twitter. CNN is so unpopular that a prankster can at CNN, and it's guaranteed to get on the air because there are just so few people, including that in their tweets. It's amazing.
The guy said, how'd they get this past the editors? How'd they get this past anybody? Because nobody's sending tweets to at CNN.
And you know what? I think that this guy is 100% right. I think that that's right. It's sad for CNN, but it's great for humanity. But here's the thing. At least Don Lemon didn't call for an investigation of the pranksters who tweeted Bart Simpson-esque prank names to CNN. I mean, in fairness, it was CNN's fault for not catching that. CNN was pulling at CNN tweets off of Twitter. I mean, it's not like the prankster hacked their computers or anything. They found those tweets and they posted them themselves. So it's kind of your own fault, guys. But you know what? I do think that if CNN could find a reasonable excuse to sick the FBI on this prankster, I think they would. In fact, I have no doubt in my mind that they would. And that is exactly what's being called for by the Democrats with this Let's Go Brandon guy. They want him investigated. Now, what is there to investigate? What, was there a conspiracy to make Biden look silly on camera? What, were there other co-conspirators? Maybe this was premeditated. Maybe if you say, let's go Brandon in the mirror 3 times, the ghost of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign haunts you for eternity. Thank goodness the guy could only get Biden to say it once. Crisis averted. But really, what is there to investigate? Yeah, this guy definitely planned and successfully executed a prank call against the President of the United States of America. Throw that guy in prison. Honestly, had this been done to Trump, leftists would be calling for this guy to get the Medal of Freedom. To all the leftists out there calling for the Let's Go Brandon guy's head, I would just like to say this.
Are you people insane?
Well, that's it for me. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that they know so much that is not so. Good night.
President Washington began this tradition in 1790 after reminding the nation that the destiny of self-government is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. For our friends in the press who place a high premium on accuracy, let me say, I did not actually hear George Washington say that.